Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Happy Monday. I've got a lot to get into, including, yes, those of you who are on social media may have seen that well, it is now, is it June 2nd? It's June 3rd. It is now June, and everything has to be gay. And I did, of course, have to make my way into enemy territory at the Pride Parade. We will get into that. I got to tell you, smelled like AIDS in there. Speaking of AIDS, though, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and of course, the greatest con man in American history, testified today at the House subcommittee hearing about the country's COVID-19 response and origins of the virus. And now I want to get into some of these clips, and I just want to prepare you. If you watched this show in the COVID era, what is that, 2020 to 2022? In some places, if you're living in a blue area, it might extend into 2023. I don't know. But if you watched this show, particularly in the COVID area when we had mask mandates and vaccine mandates and shutdowns, I can promise you're gonna feel like you might blow a gasket. So I just want to warn you for that, especially because this is a hearing, okay? But what happens next is going to be my question. So I want to play here. We've got a couple of these clips. Now, I want to play first Dr. Fauci on one of the most, there were many controversial dictates those days, but, we had this 6-foot social distancing rule. And we, on my program, again, right over there, we talked about this in 2020 of just like, where did you get the 6 feet from? Because remember, in the UK, it was something like 4 feet. And everyone seemed to be just arbitrarily coming up with these rules that then grocery stores put the stupid stickers on the ground to make sure that you were 6 feet apart. And why? Why was that? And we were called all sorts of anti-science conspiracy theorists, crazy right-wing nut jobs for ever questioning it. But yet, today, on June 3rd, here is Dr. Anthony Fauci on the 6-foot social distancing rule. Watch.
Later is the issue of the 6-foot distance. And I made the statement that it just appeared, and that got taken at like, I don't know what's going on. It just appeared. It actually came from the CDC. The CDC was responsible for those kinds of guidelines for schools, not me. So when I said that it just appeared, it appeared. Was there any science behind it? What I meant by no science behind it is that there wasn't a controlled trial that said compare 6 foot with 3 feet with 10 feet. So there wasn't that scientific evaluation of it. What I believe the CDC used for their reason to say 6 feet is that studies years ago showed that when you're dealing with droplets, which at the time that the CDC made that recommendation, it was felt that the transmission was primarily through droplet, not aerosol, which is incorrect because we know now aerosol does play a role. That's the reason why they did it. It had little to do with me since I didn't make the recommendation.
Right. Nothing was
and my
you.
saying there was no science behind it means there was no clinical trial that proved that. That's just one of the things that got a little distorted in the response to that.
And is this not like, that depends on what your definition of sexual relations is? Bill Clinton? What? Yeah, if there's no controlled trials, if there's no scientific trials, then there's no scientific evaluation, then there's no science behind it. You can't just take some guy in a lab coat who's saying that he thinks that something is correct and then just be like, oh, well, that's enough, which again is what we were saying at the time. I know you guys, some of you guys are like, Sarah's so angry all the time. It's just that I just lived through hell. You guys did too. I don't know why you wouldn't be angry about this. They masked your freaking children, not mine, Didn't mask my children. Not under my watch. They masked your children when there was no scientific study that could support masking and suffocating your children. Watch.
And going back to what I said before, all of that is in the context of, at the time, 4
Mask
to
mandates for children
5,000
under
people a
5,
day
there's
were
scientific
dying.
evidence for that?
Excuse me?
Mask mandates for children under 5, there's scientific evidence supporting that?
There was no study that did masks on kids before. You couldn't do the study. You had to respond
Right.
to an epidemic that was killing 4 to 5,000 Americans per
Vaccine
day.
mandates.
I am so uninterested in how many people it's killing a day. What I'm interested in is what are the demographics of the people that it's killing, because it would be well and good to say that if you guys weren't also sending COVID positive elderly patients back to their nursing homes to spread it to the most vulnerable population. We knew that children were not prone to this. And remember, Dr. Anthony Fauci, which, by the way, he was I just want to remind you guys, he was the highest paid federal employee, made more than the president, the highest paid federal employee, okay? And he is even saying there was no scientific study that he could recall that supported masking children. But this is the only time in the history of this country that we have decided to forego, throw the kids to the wolves in favor of the older population. When the hell else have we decided to do that? Take the kids out of school. Who cares? They are still suffering from learning loss. Again, not my kid. My kid was ahead because I said, screw you guys, the hell with you. I'll pull him and I'll homeschool him myself. There is no freaking way you are putting a mask on my kid. Okay, so I just want to be clear, not my kid, probably not many of your kids, but the majority of children in this country and your taxpayer dollars funded taking children out of school and the learning losses associated with that, funded masking children, young children, 2-year-olds who are in preschool, who now could potentially be dealing with anxiety disorders. They're little germaphobes because at a very young, impressionable time, they were forced to put a freaking face diaper on and they couldn't freaking breathe. So it's just so cute to me that he wants to talk about, we had to just throw our children to the wolves because there were people dying. That is not how societies function. And by the way, if my grandparents were alive, I can almost guarantee you they would say, I would be more than happy to, don't let the children take the fall for me. I've lived my life. I will decide my own risks. I will decide whether I go out in public. If I'm elderly or I'm immunocompromised, or at the time they're like, hey, if you're really obese, be careful because you could die from it. Okay, let those people decide their own fate. But they masked all of our children and there was no evidence to support it. And again, I know that. I was telling you that in 2020. But to have this arrogant, smug bastard come out and just be like, oh, actually, no, there was no science behind it. When you were called all sorts of anti-science names back in the day, it's just disgusting. And then, so speaking of anti-science, let's get into some of the things that he was talking about in regard to the vaccine. Okay, so Dr. Fauci, here's Dr. Fauci on the COVID vaccine, which we know did not do anything to stop the transmission. Okay. Didn't do anything to stop the spread, didn't do anything to stop the transmission. You could still get COVID. You could still transmit COVID. And there are some, people with existing heart issues that may or may not still be with us. But despite all of that, Dr. Fauci is still saying that the COVID vaccine's safe and highly effective. Watch.
Less than 11 months after the identification of this new virus, safe and highly effective vaccines were widely available, an unprecedented accomplishment in the history of vaccinology that saved tens of millions of lives worldwide.
Yeah. First of all, there's no way to actually, you can't people who didn't die from COVID, you can't prove, there's no way to show that they survived because of the vaccine. Because remember, the general population, the rate of survival was what? 99.3? Stephen?
Something like that.
99.5?
Yeah.
Maybe? Okay. So the rate of survival was already there. You don't get to claim that people who didn't die because they took the vaccine. In fact, I would argue that there are people who are no longer with us because they took that experimental jab. But he doesn't want to talk about that. Instead, he wants to say that if you refuse to get vaccinated, you are actually responsible for additional deaths. Okay, the unvaxxed are responsible for additional deaths in this country. The audacity of this man. Watch.
And do you also agree that it saved hundreds of thousands and possibly millions of lives in America and across the world?
No.
That is absolutely correct.
No.
And it's very clear that it's saved millions
There
of
is
lives.
no way to prove
here
that.
And throughout the world. The Europeans have done the same studies that we have, and the data are incontrovertible that they save lives.
Sir, and do you think the American public should listen to America's brightest and best doctors and scientists, or instead listen to podcasters, conspiracy theorists, and unhinged Facebook memes?
Oh, okay. Hold on. Time out. That's where, don't listen to me. Okay. I don't know what I'm talking about. All right. Forget the fact that every single thing that I said through this process for the last 4 years turned out to be completely true. How did I know more than Dr. Anthony Fauci? I don't know. Maybe the fact of the matter is he did know the entire time. He lied to all of you. Maybe that's the case. Because, wait, are we allowed to say that the United States government was in on it? Are we allowed to say that they funded the Wuhan Institute of Virology that went on to engineer this? Are we allowed to say that yet? I don't remember. I think we've got a clip coming up later that has to deal with that. But trying to discredit those of us who were right the whole time is just absolutely reprehensible. Keep going.
You know, listening to people who you just described is going to do nothing but harm people because they will deprive themselves of life-saving interventions, which has happened. And, you know, some have done studies. Peter Hotez has done an analysis of this and shows
shill.
that in people who refuse to get vaccinated for any variety of reasons, probably responsible for an additional 200,000 to 300,000 deaths in this.
Okay. So again, let's be super science-y, okay? I'm going to put on my super science-y hat for a second. If your vaccine works, I could get the jab and I will have protection because that's how the vaccine works, okay? So if your vaccine works and you choose to take the vaccine, you are protected. I, as a person who has pure blood, am not responsible for anything if you've chosen to get vaccinated, right? Because your vaccine works, right? Right? Okay. Second of all, remember, these people, the experts, okay, I'm just a podcaster. I don't know. I'm just a podcaster. What do I know? Except the experts were the ones who were sending people home to die. They were sending people home without early treatment, without regard to anything other than go home and come back if it gets worse. That's what they did. So if you want to talk about being responsible for additional deaths in this country, the medical experts in this country are responsible for the overwhelming majority of deaths from COVID. The other subsector of deaths from COVID are the ones who were like motorcyclists who got decapitated and their cause of death was listed as COVID. Didn't happen. I mean, maybe they had COVID. It was obviously not their cause of death. He could have lived. He would have been very uncomfortable with no head.
Maybe he coughed and that's what caused him to have the accident.
Maybe
and he coughed
so.
it off. So if
Maybe
he didn't
so.
have COVID, he'd still be alive.
That is a lot of hoops to jump through.
Well, that's what they do.
I know.
That's why he's saying
I know.
that all these people died or would have died before because you can't prove it.
Which is why it is like, Again, I'm just a podcaster. Okay, what do I know? But the fact of the matter is, you cannot prove that people who survived COVID survived because of the vaccine, because the people who didn't get the vaccine overwhelmingly also survived COVID. And someone who is supposed to be one of the top science medical experts in the country just so coolly, calmly, casually sitting in front of Congress and trying to espouse that is something that they know conclusively is just such bullshit to me. And the fact that nobody seemed to call him on that. Nobody seemed to say, hey, but how scientifically, how do you actually prove that? You're just kind of assuming, you're just giving the vaccine the presumption that was what saved them, even though there was already a 99.5% survival rate. How can you possibly credit the vaccine rather than someone's own immune system? Because remember, we were supposed to believe that natural immunity was not even a thing until just recently, just a couple weeks ago. They're like, actually, you're right. That thing that we all agreed was a thing for millennia up until COVID. It turns out that it was a thing during COVID too, but we didn't know. We didn't know. Let's play one more clip here. Let's play Jim Jordan. I talked about the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which received United States funding. Let's watch Jim Jordan calling Dr. Fauci out on that. Watch.
Prior to that call would have been on the call.
Well, the call was arranged by Jeremy Farrar. You should ask him.
Okay. Did U.S. tax dollars flow through a grant recipient to the lab in China?
I'm sorry. What was?
Did U.S. tax dollars flow through a grant recipient to the lab in China?
Yes, of course. It was a sub-award to the Wuhan Institute.
And who approved that award?
Of course.
Excuse me?
And who approved that award? What agency approved that award?
National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases.
Your agency approved that, right?
Yes, it did after.
Does that have anything to do with this downplaying of the lab leak theory?
No.
Nothing to do with it.
Nothing.
What?
No, please stop. No, it had nothing to do with the fact that we actually funded this gain-of-function research, which we claimed that we didn't, but then sort of admitted that we did, but didn't use the same semantics because we weren't allowed to actually participate in gain-of-function research. No, it has nothing to do. Please, don't look through my emails, okay? Don't look through my emails where I've told people, let's get on a call, let's not put anything in writing. Let's examine this. Let's get on a call. And then all of a sudden, all of these experts are going to pivot and agree with us. Please. No, we are not covering our tracks, Jim Jordan. There's nothing to see here. The fact that Congress, look, I'm glad that they're getting him on the record. That's cool. What the hell are you going to do about it now? We already know he's a criminal. We already know he's a con man. We already know he is responsible for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of deaths. So what are you going to do about it? Because this guy does, honestly, if he was behind bars for the rest of his life, that would be a gentle outcome for him. And by the way, while we're on the subject, those of you who have not heard yet, we have a new documentary out with regard to all of this, actually. It's called The Cover-Up. And it was done by Matt Kibbe, who is, of course, president of Free the People, also a BlazeTV host here, Kibbe on Liberty. And they went through a ton of Dr. Fauci's lies. I mean, you will listen. If you don't understand why I'm so mad, you will understand why I'm so mad once you watch The Cover-Up. It's available now only on BlazeTV. You can get $30 off with the code Fauci Lied. Hey, guys, that's more than the promo code that I give you. Okay, so if you haven't signed up yet, now's the time. You can save $30 off, which is the highest I think that we give. So go to FauciCoverup.com/Sarah. That is FauciCoverup.com/Sarah. Promo code Fauci Lied. We'll be right back. Well, with the country still reeling, or at least half the country still reeling of the news that former President Donald Trump could actually, he could be imprisoned, which we tried to tell people as this was happening when the indictment started. Guys, if you think that they would not lock up Donald Trump to prevent him from winning election, you're crazy. Of course they would. They played to win. So as this is happening, Speaker Mike Johnson went on Fox News and told them that the House Republicans will lead an investigation into corrupt state and federal prosecutors who are weaponizing the justice system. Oh, Mike Johnson is on it, okay? He is going to investigate these people who are using the justice system to attack political opponents. Watch.
And the purpose of the hearing is to investigate what these prosecutors are doing at the state and federal level to use politics, political retribution in the court system to go after political opponents of federal officials like Donald Trump. That's a really important thing for us to delve into. And we're going to look at Special Counsel Jack Smith, who we believe is abusing his authority as well. We have the funding streams. We have mechanisms to try to get control of that. We'll be doing that within the confines of our jurisdiction. And I think that can have the desired effect and show the American people we're not going to tolerate this. Shannon, at the end of the day, people are losing their faith in our system of justice itself, and that's a serious threat.
Speaker Mike Johnson's not going to tolerate this. He is not going to tolerate the weaponization of the justice system against Donald Trump. He's not going to tolerate the political persecution. There's just one problem with that. He may be not doing something right now that could potentially help Donald Trump. I want to welcome to the program Breanna Morello, of course, host of the Breanna Morello Show, to tell us more about House Bill 2553. Breanna, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, it's a little infuriating listening to all of this because, well, again, it's a Republican setting. I mean, it's just pretty much a strongly worded letter at this point. They're like blanket threats, but they don't have any punch to them. And, well, we all know that. But Speaker Mike Johnson, interesting enough, back in 2023, actually sponsored and he pushed forward legislation. He was looking to push forward legislation when he was just a congressman regarding, as you said, H.R. 2553. That is the No More Political Prosecutions Act, ultimately taking power away from all of these rogue local prosecutors like Alvin Bragg and forcing it into federal court. Now, it sounds good enough. And, well, obviously Speaker Johnson was a believer in it back in 2023. But he hasn't brought this bill to a vote yet. It has not hit the floor. And so I've reached out to Speaker Johnson's office regarding just this. And sadly, he has not gotten back to me. But he did go on Fox and give a blanket threat. So I don't know if it's really going to go anywhere. But it's disappointing. I mean, Sarah, you were fired up on Friday about this, and rightfully so. We constantly watch as the left goes after our politicians and targets them. And Republicans just say, oh, we'll let the system figure it out. And they're not willing to get dirty and into this fight. And yet again, Speaker Johnson, not willing to get dirty and get into this fight. You got to push back somehow. Just moments ago, though, it is worth noting, it looks like Chairman Jim Jordan's office just forwarded me some new legislative proposal pretty much saying that they're looking to potentially defund these rogue prosecutors, citing Alvin Bragg as well, and also citing the fact that they will not be looking to fund that new FBI headquarters that President Trump said he also wanted to fund and create. So interesting to see coming out of Jim Jordan's office. Yeah, that would be huge if that ends up being the case or they can get that passed. But it just seems like, before you're speaker, okay, if you're Mike Johnson, before you're speaker, you're willing to sign your name. You're willing to co-sponsor a bill that talks a tough talk about helping Donald Trump to prevent him from being politically persecuted. And now that you're the one who literally controls what lives and what dies on the floor, you just forget about it. That seems a whole lot to me like this is someone that cannot be trusted to actually present conservative proposals. Sounds to me like it's just oh, I want to sign my name to this so I look cool, but I'm not actually interested in doing anything. Yeah, he's had a complete turnaround. It's been 7-8 months since he's become speaker. And it's been a complete transformation. It's probably one of the most jarring ones. We knew what we were getting with Kevin McCarthy, that we understood. But Speaker Johnson claims to be a constitutional attorney, which is jarring nowadays. And he also claims to see his views through the lens of the Bible. And he has not been any of that since taking the gavel. And so it's interesting to see him just be a massive, massive disappointment. I don't understand why we've gotten to this point, though. I know there's been some presumptions by Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene that there's some type of potentially blackmail against him, and that's the reason why he's completely changed. But the shift has been something that's been remarkable. We've never seen anything like this. And I know President Trump doesn't want to get into any turmoil with anyone, but he's allowing people like Speaker Johnson to just carry on and just continue to go down this path. I view it as very dangerous because we're not putting his feet to the fire. When I'm reaching out to his office and reaching out to his chief of staff, his comms director, all of these people, they ignore me now because they know the speaker doesn't want to address any of these issues. And if you call his DC office too, well, nobody answers the phone. It actually just goes straight to voicemail. So there's zero accountability. And I ask other members of Congress, their staffers, how's everything going with Speaker Johnson? What would you grade him? And they're about the same as you and I. They'd probably give him an F just based on his performance. Internally, he's not really answering calls. He pretends that he's part speaker, part therapist, I think is how he put it. But he really hasn't been either of those. He's been a voice for those on the left and a mat for those on the left. But when it comes to conservatives, he's completely abandoned all of us.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, I at least would I understand if you might think, because I know our majority keeps getting thinner and thinner. Mm-hmm. So I understand if you might think well, we don't, we might not have enough votes to pass this through, so I don't want to make it look bad. No, I disagree. I say put every single person with an R in front of their name, put every single person on the record. Do you agree with the political persecution of Donald Trump or do you not? Do you agree with the unprecedented way that every single federal agency has weaponized against Joe Biden's top political opponent or not? Put your name on the record right now so all of your constituents can see whether or not you think it's okay for this to continue. I think we need to get everyone on the record regardless of how they would vote.
That's how it should be, right? But that probably means he's too embarrassed that he doesn't have the votes and he doesn't want to put these people on the record. I think 100% we should. But, sadly, I know everyone was cheering on when we got the majority back in 2022, and they were thanking New York politicians, and that's where I come from, sadly, New York, and they were so excited for flipping those seats. But they've been some of the weakest, and they've been the ones pushing for the ousting of, George Santos and other politicians, and they're just been a mat. And it's so crazy to me to think that we're allowing them to get away with this. We're going to continue to do this. The American people handed the majority over to Republicans for a reason. And it wasn't for them to act like cowards. It was for them to push back and grow a spine. And unfortunately, they're not doing so. So I don't know where we go from here, but you can't sit here and campaign and say, we'll get them next time when we get Trump into the White House, when you're not willing to get your hands a little dirty right now. So we'll see how it plays out. I just don't have much faith in Mike Johnson based on his rapid transformation and his lack of care for answering for any of these hard questions. Yeah, I completely agree. Well, I know that we can count on you to stay on him despite them probably just not only not answering your phone calls, but your emails and everything else. But you got to keep on him, and we appreciate you so much, Breanna. Keep us posted. This is Breanna Morello of the Breanna Morello Show. We'll see you soon. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. All right. Those smarmy bastards. I'm so tired of them. We got to think, you know what? I love Relief Factor. We got to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. I love Relief Factor. I wish that it worked for the pain in my ass that is the federal legislature, Congress. I wish that it worked on that. It doesn't, but it at least helps me feel better with all of the, aches and pains, whether you have arthritis, maybe you have tennis elbow, maybe you have back or neck problems. Whatever the case may be, Relief Factor is a daily supplement that helps your body fight pain by fighting the inflammation. It's 100% drug-free, so it's not going to make you feel all super loopy or whatever. And it's not only worked for me, it's worked for over 1 million people. They have this 3-week quick start kit, okay? And 70% of the people who get that kit go on to keep ordering more. That's how many people it's working for. It's only $19.95 and it comes with a guarantee. So you've got nothing to lose except your pain. Go to relieffactor.com, get that 3-week quick start over at relieffactor.com. I want to put out one more reminder, those of you who you've thought I always wanted to work for the Blaze. Well, we're hiring. You can go check out our job openings at theblaze.com/jobs. My team in particular is hiring a couple different positions. So make sure that you check that out. I mean, flattery is helpful in your cover letter. I'm just kidding. I'm not really kidding. So make sure you check it out, theblaze.com/jobs. If you feel like you are so qualified, I want to welcome to the show Matthew Marsden, Blaze TV contributor and actor and producer extraordinaire, who is overqualified for those positions. Mm-hmm. But
maybe not. I don't know.
I'm just saying, I wish that you could just go down to my level.
Oh, yeah. Well, I slum it now and then.
You could be my PA. You could bring me coffee.
Listen, I can't take that. I've seen the way you treat people. You're a tyrant. You're like, green M&Ms. I told you green M&Ms. I see the way they cower. It's honestly, she's a tyrant.
I think that's just me.
Yeah, that's just Steven. I said green M&Ms.
Oh my god!
In the corner going, don't hit me.
Please don't, not again. No, we're all a big happy family here and it's a lot of fun. So I want to play a little bit of what happened over the weekend when Donald Trump, I was just talking to Breanna Morello, the most politically persecuted man in the country, Donald Trump, appearing at the UFC fight in New Jersey over the weekend. This was Saturday night. I want to show the huge ovation from the stadium there. Watch.
Costa also with us tonight. 45. Being ushered in by UFC CEO Dana White. Donald Trump is in the building, and the former president getting a standing ovation from the assembled masses here at UFC 302.
Very excited. They are very excited to see Donald Trump. And then I want to play one more clip here from the UFC fight. So the winner, did he win over the weekend, Sean Strickland?
I'm told yes.
Okay, all right. So I want to play him after he won, talking to Donald Trump in his speech. Watch.
President Trump, you're the man, bro. It is a damn travesty what they're doing to you. I'll be donating to you, my man. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Congratulations, sir. Sean Strickland, ladies and gentlemen.
So I read a headline that since that happened at the end of last week, that they have now raised like $200 million for Donald Trump's campaign.
I'm not surprised. And yet, if you watch the mainstream media, they'll also tell you that people are less likely to vote for him.
That's what I don't get.
True.
It has to be not true, right?
Of course it's not true.
How can you raise that much money and then have the majority of Republicans saying, oh, well, now he's a felon? Well, yeah, because they weaponize the system against him.
Well, that's what they do, though, don't they? They just keep repeating the lies, and they hope it will stick. You know, I mean, it was because I was actually there in New York this weekend, and it was amazing, actually. So I did I'd never done it before, which was very challenging for me to do X Spaces. And as I walked to Trump Tower, and it was funny because people were saying, oh, are you afraid? I'm like, why would I be afraid of a bunch of Trump people? These aren't the ones that go violently smashing things up, you know, apart from what they say about January the 6th, which, again, people just walked around very peacefully for the most part. But people there were very, very positive. They're very positive about Trump. And look, at the end of the day, you saw that UFC, right? They tell you that 81 million votes, which was always a lie. Yeah. It was always a lie. But we shouldn't be complacent about it. And this is not the end. They're going to keep coming. Mm-hmm. And it worries me because I think that we all know that they cannot let him win.
Right.
They cannot let him win because he is going to take an absolute flamethrower to the establishment, and they're terrified. So people, it's going to get very, very, very sticky. And it's going to get worse. And you know what? You know what's interesting? I do want to make this point. He knew, because when we were on the show, do you remember? And he said they would even, Mother Teresa would even get.
Yep, he did.
He knew.
I know. And we said, I was like, I don't like that. That seems like he's resigned himself to the fact that they are going to do whatever it takes to find him guilty and imprison him. That was the moment that he was like, what can I do? My hands are tied.
He knew.
He did.
And look, and we all were thinking, well, you know, I spoke to Matt Peterson, because he was coming out to New York, and I said, oh, you know, they've just cut it short. So everyone on the other channels as well, at Fox and whatever, was saying, well, they're going to come back another day, right? They're going to come back the next day because they couldn't figure it out. And when it came out guilty, it was like, what?
I know. I had more faith in humanity than that. I honestly did. I was like, okay, cool. It was quick, which means they were like, yeah, there's no case here. So let's just go home. We don't want to stay here over the weekend. And then I was like, well, I had too much. That's my mistake. Next time I won't have that much faith in humanity. That's on me. My bad. So speaking of that, I want to play Donald Trump. He gave his first interview since all of this had happened, since he had been found guilty. Unfortunately, it was on Fox News and not Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. But maybe someday it can be Sara Gonzales Unfiltered and not Fox News, who, by the way, doesn't like him. So he should stop giving airtime to Fox News. But he talked about potential jail time. And here's what he had to say.
They could. The judge could decide to say, hey, house arrest or even jail.
It could.
Face what that could.
I'm okay with it. I saw one of my lawyers the other day on television saying, oh, no, you don't want to do that to the president. I said, you don't beg for anything. You just, the way it is.
I love that man.
He is hardcore. Like, I retweeted that and said, like, what a baller. And that's why all those guys at UFC, all the guys at UFC, why are they there for? They're going to see gladiators in the arena that will punch each other in the face and then get up afterwards and shake hands for the most part, because that is a masculine thing, right? And they look at Trump and that's what they see. They see a guy that is never giving in. We've said this before. I don't know if I could do that at his age.
I could. I mean, look, I said before he formally announced that he was running again, I was like, why would you want to pass the torch to someone else? You don't have to deal with the media going after you for the next 4 years. You don't have to deal with any of this crap. You don't have to deal with them going after you, in the justice system. Just go be with your family. And he chose to step up and he hasn't backed down. And there is, again, I say, I love that man. I don't mean like, I'm going to back him no matter what. I've been critical of him where I need to be critical of him, I think. I've been critical. I still don't like the way he handled COVID. I don't like that he has not admitted that he was wrong there. There are a litany of things that I could list right now that I don't appreciate about him. But the fact that they are going after him with 91 indictments and he is still like, whatever happens, happens. I'm like, there is something that you have to respect about that.
Yeah, and also he's the most transparent president we've ever had. I think he's probably the most transparent politician we've ever had, because what you see is what you get. And look, we all know that people make mistakes, people get bad advice. I think now we've seen the way that the deep state is moving against him.
Yeah.
Makes his presidency a little bit more understandable.
Right.
You're kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, who was advising him? You've seen the Republicans stab him in the back, and everyone's going, hang on a second, like, look, it's parenting 101, right? Like when you're talking to your kids, you go, hey, listen, we're having a unified front on this, even though we might disagree with what one or the other parent say. That's the way it's meant to be, right? You're meant to put a unified front, whether it's right or wrong, right? Look, when Donald Trump was first running, and I give Matt Peterson a hard time about this because I said immediately he was going to win, right? Because anyone that knows anything about entertainment and the culture, they'll understand that he was a phenomenon. Mm-hmm. But people were like, he's not pro-life. I went, once they attack him on being pro-life, he will be the most pro-life president in history. That's what he does. Yeah. Like you prod the bear and he's going to go,
right?
Really?
Right.
All right. I'm going to do this then.
And he is, by the way.
He does.
He is now. He is now the most pro-life president in history, because you have to judge him by his actions and what his actions caused, not flippant remarks that he makes on the campaign trail.
And that's all. Come on, guys, like we know what Trump is like. It's the art of the deal. He'll say something, then pull it back. He'll move around. If you don't understand what he's like right now, I don't know what to say to you, right? We all know what he's like. But I think now that what you are seeing is a man that is... He's going to be a great man. He's already a great man. But I mean, I think he's destined for real greatness, because saying that, like, you can imprison me. This is a different level.
I know.
It's a different level.
I know. You just like, you have to, if you can't respect him saying that, you're just broken. Like you're suffering from TDS, I think, because at his, like, as you said, at his age, to just be like, whatever happens, happens. Is like, I couldn't deal with that at my age. Imagine dealing with that at his age. There is something to be, commended in that regard. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. I'm so glad that you're here, because we get to talk about my little experience at Dallas Pride Parade over the weekend. Don't worry, I did take like 20 showers since I've been back. You're not going to catch anything. Hopefully neither did I.
Got a tetanus shot as well.
Hopefully neither. You know the answer's no. Hopefully neither did I. But we will be right back with that.
Where are my bisexuals? Bisexuals. They're not really bisexual. They're just sluts.
That's child friendly.
Cops, wake up.
Nice.
You're in good company, except for the ladies who are a little grossed out by that.
For those of you who are listening, these are fans that say the C word. Here's young children. This says, "Is dick a carb? Boo you whore," and the word slut on fans. Here's more. Children checking out the wonderful fans. Here's children's apparel that's for Gay Pride with Paw Patrol. Here's this. One of those wonderful flags. Fan with the F word on it. Shirt that says overworked and under-effed, and you, my friend, should have been swallowed. I don't know what that is. Here is a fan. Oh, we had to blur the whole thing. It says P-word power. This is the Target leader of the parade that's a cross-dressing man. Here is a drag float in the parade with teenagers. Teen Pride Revolution. Here's young children marching in the parade. Here's a girl with netting and her rear end hanging out in front of a support trans athletes sign being held by the Nike float. So, yeah, that's what you can see at your local all ages friendly, family friendly Pride Parade. Would you bring your kids there, Matt? You know what's so funny is I see that, and every time I go, and I'm like, I hate going to this. I feel like I need an exorcism every time I leave. And I'm like, I don't understand how they can get away with saying this is family friendly. I go to the family friendly festivals. I go to them. I have never once seen any of this. None of it. None of it. I've never seen flags that say power. Sorry, edit. You're going to have to mute that. Know why? Because it's not family friendly. It's not even adult friendly. Okay. I've never been to an all ages family friendly festival that has, fans with the C word on it or people dressed like that. It's like, I don't like, how depraved do you have to be like, oh yeah, this is still family friendly.
You know, there's very interesting thing that I saw today. A guy that I've known for a very, very long time is a writer for a television show, and he's gay. And he wrote today, I have nothing in common with this, basically. Like, I don't understand this. Like, I feel isolated from it. Let me tell you, it was, and I keep trying to make this point, like, this is not what they say it is at all. Right. Like, it's not about gay pride. It's really some kind of like weird, what's the word I'm looking for? Like debauched sex show. Mm-hmm. Like that's what it is. Mm-hmm. And what was funny was all the posts underneath were like, I don't understand this. I don't understand this. Like, this isn't what I want. I can't stand this. Why would I want to go to Pride? Why would I? So if you are a fair-minded person and you're looking at that, they understand it as well. The gays understand it as well. They really do. A lot of them look at that and go, what the hell is this? Like, we do not, and we've seen this with Gays Against Groomers, right? They're like, whoa. No. That's not what we're all about at all. Right. I mean, it really is extreme. We've really got extreme now.
Yeah, I mean, well, because there's two different things, right? Like, if you want to have a sex party, like, I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying let's just all be honest and say that this is not child friendly, right? Like, I wouldn't go. I think it's weird, but let's just all be on the same page that this is not appropriate for children, right? But then there's another aspect of it that's just like, this is just totally depraved and disgusting. And I think it's just so strange to have your entire identity be about who you like to sleep with. Like, imagine if you spent an entire month being like, I love straight sex. I love it. I want to go to parade about it. I want to talk about it.
I want to talk to kids about it.
I want to talk to kids about how much I love straight sex. Like, I'm having a hard time. And by the way, I love straight sex. I'll admit it. Okay. Love it. could not be bothered to spend time explaining that to people.
Because it's odd. It's
so
just
strange.
so weird. Like, why would you do that anyway? Look, and we know this. The amount of Christians that came out and said, "Look, I don't want people to be watching the Victoria's Secret show."
Yeah.
Why? Because it was exposing women's bodies out there. Like, whatever you think about it, they would say. So this is a very consistent thing.
Yeah.
It's not like it's like, listen, I don't think that young children should be watching that. They shouldn't be watching porn. They shouldn't be watching this. And they certainly shouldn't be watching this. So they're completely consistent with it.
Right.
But what is weird is this whole movement that is, not only is it, like, I don't know if you remember that picture with a guy who was in the military uniform and he was wearing the dog mask. The bondage dog mask.
Yes.
And there's
which I saw some of those. I just didn't get them on camera, by the way.
Well, thank goodness for that, right?
I did get them last year. Go ahead.
Yeah, but what is that all about? Like, where are we going with this?
Nowhere good.
No, it's not. It's nowhere good. Same with the language. Like, why would you want to use that language? This isn't about what they say it's about.
Right.
And they're playing their hand. And by the way, for everyone that said, listen, if you open the door, then XYZ is going to happen.
There it is.
There it is.
There is your slippery slope right there. Okay, before we have to go, I know we have to go, but really quickly, apparently the FBI was at the West Hollywood Pride Parade, which, I mean, we all knew the FBI was gay, but here's proof that the FBI is, in fact, very gay. All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. So this is one of those, I saw it, so now you have to. From The View, this is Joy Behar talking about how she was having some incontinence problems when she found out that Donald Trump was convicted. Watch.
Well, can I say one thing?
Please don't.
What was your reaction? Well, my reaction was I was at Costco buying, 10 boxes of Keurig coffee.
Of diapers?
And my watch started to buzz, and I got so excited I started leaking a little bit.
Why are they laughing?
You're the leaker? I'm the leaker. Well, wait, this is what I want to say now, seriously. Because they're going to say it's rigged. This is rigged. That's rigged. Brian's rigged. We're rigged. Everything's rigged.
All right. I got so excited I leaked. Like, why would you admit that? Why? These people have no shame. None. She leaked. She just said that on national television. Well, sadly, and then they're all laughing. I'd be like, oh.
It's really funny.
That's not. No, honey, you should get that checked out. I mean, you probably make a lot of money. You should probably just go to the doctor or, I don't know, do Kegels or something. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Although I'm convinced that she was getting diapers from Costco, not Keurig. Had to be. Just saying.